ActionAid Nigeria has called on the federal government to build resilient systems to respond early and adequately to early warning signals in order to prevent the devastating impact of flood on the people. The humanitarian organization made this call at a press conference on the recent flooding in Maiduguri, while the non-governmental organization is working with local and international partners to provide immediate relief for victims of the flood in Borno State, conducting needs assessments, distributing emergency food supplies, clean water, hygiene kits, and other essential items. Now, while commending the federal and state governments for its swift response to the flooding situation, the Deputy Country Director, Suwaiba Dankabo, suggested that more attention should be centered on women as they are more vulnerable at this critical time.
Especially those living in IDP camps are at heightened risk of gender-based violence and exploitation. Many have lost their lives, pushing them deeper into poverty, while they shoulder the increased burden of care for their families. We cannot allow this crisis to undo the progress we have made in advancing women's rights and dignity. What is our call? Our response and that of all stakeholders must be survival-centered, need-based, and gender-responsive, meaning we have to cater for everybody based on their needs. Our team have been conducting rapid assessments, distributing emergency food supplies, clean water, hygiene kits, and other essential items.
Well, joining us now is the Deputy Country Director of ActionAid Nigeria, Suwaiba Dankabo, that you just saw there in that report. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. You do raise a very, very germane issue there about gender-based violence, you know, in this emergency situations. And we're hearing it's already happening. First off, let me get your assessment of government's handling of this situation in Borno so far.
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, we commiserate with the people of Borno, especially women and children. As you rightly mentioned, one of the major crises or the issues that comes along with the issues of flooding or any emergency is the fact that the population is affected and affected differently. Women and children, persons with disabilities, women who are lactating, women who are pregnant, those are the worst affected. So far, we've seen that the level of information in terms of getting the information for preparedness from the meteorological agencies and NEMA have alerted states early enough. But what is happening in Borno has demonstrated clearly the vulnerability of our systems and structures, the fact that we are not prepared. And so far, we have seen the level of effort in terms of quick and swift response to, say, evacuate, which is life first. But even in the midst of evacuation, women are still exposed to additional vulnerabilities. As a woman carrying the children, the food that is being prepared to support the victims as they are evacuated, it does not go around. It's like for survival of the fittest.
And that's part of what we're hearing from
exactly. So
the
if there are videos, there are evidences, people are struggling. There is no any order. I know it's devastating, but even in the midst of relief, distribution, we must have a kind of a system that helps to have crowd control, so that those who are less privileged, those who are not strong, can get it. Imagine a woman that was crying with 3 children, all of them crying, we're hungry, but she said, I can't do anything because it's only the people who are strong that can get it. And so the people are still not getting enough.
What kind of systems really should be put in place in this, dire situation?
In the first place, the preparedness system has failed because one of the major components of the National Action Plan strategy was the fact that the government are expected to put, system in the evacuation areas ones that will not determine, complicate matters.
Right.
So if we know that this is happening, or we know it's already happening, so the person will say,
Early
okay,
warnings.
let's have this separate area dedicated for women and children, and then these other places dedicated for men, and or for others. Even if it is, we are saying, okay, for the family, but at least special attention to the women and those who are less, who are more vulnerable. And the fact that whatever we're doing, the government, there are some areas that are not flooded. So government can still make a strategic operational plan, which is part of the emergency response, to say, okay, we need crowd control. So put crowd control in place, quickly mobilize the remaining items that are left in the hospitals to organize for health support.
So what you're saying, if I hear you clearly, governments can actually do the evacuation and whatever else that needs to be done before this flooding even happens.
Exactly,
in the first place.
if the preparedness
and
system is in
not
place.
to be reactive to the situation.
So once they get the alert, and that's why Nigeria is a federated country. We have the state, we have the local government, we have the national. But most of the time, the whole attention is on the national.
Yeah.
But this order governance is not effective, and so when things happen, we are waiting. I had the discussions that was happening before I came in. The fact that saying the dam belongs to the federal government.
Yeah.
But this dam is living. You are living
Right
with the
in
dam,
your state.
and
Yeah.
the management of this dam is supposed to be initiated from the local level. And even if you have to cry out to say to demand accountability for government, but this is, if anything happens, it's your people that are going to be affected.
Are you concerned now that President Tinubu has graciously, given or donated, if you like, 3 billion naira to each state? All 36 states are getting 3 billion naira. Is it enough to throw money at this problem? Or beyond the money, what are those things that must be in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again next year?
The most important thing is even to demand, to ask what has the other monies that has been disbursed done. This is the fourth time that this kind of money is dished out, and the most vulnerable are not getting it. Where is the money going to? If you give, okay, the government is pledging 3 billion,
3 billion
to every state.
Each state.
To each state, flooded or not flooded.
Yeah.
So those who are flooded are supposed to use it to respond to flood. Those who are not flooded, what are they going to use it for? Ask me in the next 3 months or 3 weeks, if this doesn't happen, where is the money? You will not find it.
And the hydrological services, I mean, I had them here on this show the other day, and they warned that, look, the flooding is moving down south.
The warning was
already
fantastic.
Yeah.
We know that, in fact, our cries in the last 2 years, in 2022, we cried out to say there's not enough warning. And then, but then now, we are here. In the last year and this year, there was enough warning. But what we are reiterating is the fact that these monies that are being disbursed are not reaching the people who are in need of the funds.
Even when donors give funds, I mean, USA gave about
just
$100
now,
million.
Just now, we are seeing that Dangote is already contributing additional 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So for crying out loud, if there's any learning that will happen in Nigeria, Borno State will have learned, in fact, should be the expert in humanitarian response. And so the issue of early warning, I know that there's a problem of insurgency and so on. The governor himself, also responded to the fact that, yes, admitted to the fact that, yes, the maintenance of the dam was not done and that they are going to do it now. Now, monies are given to said, I want to come back to this question. How is this money going to be distributed? What criteria is going to be set for the use of the money? The bulk of it would go into logistics. And so, by the time you ask
what is left for
the real
issues.
people who are affected, there's nothing left.
That even brings me to the issue of ecological funds. Over and over again, we hear about ecological funds that are actually meant to address this emergency situation, take care of environmental issues and what have you. Have the governors justified the ecological funds?
Not yet.
Should we begin to ask them questions?
We have to begin to ask questions, but the challenge is you continue to see the kind of reports that comes along with this kind of thing, because there's no accountability systems, there's no monitoring and evaluation. Most of the time we spend the money in organizing the big workshops or the centers, and by the time you do all this and all consultancy services, it is good. I attended two of this kind of meetings. Just about 3 months ago, World Bank supported national the federal government to develop, NEMA in particular, to develop a preparedness system. I personally participated in one of the groups that look at the accommodation in terms of evacuation system. We are talking about a more sustainable one that can respond in the uplands, and then if people have trained and awareness is created, and then they understand what to do. Then once they see the signs, they know, because they are living with it. Absolutely. They will just move with the most important items to that site. Water receipts, they come back, and then the cleanup takes place. But what is happening is very unfortunate that most of these plans are left in the paper, and the implementation does not happen. And it does not come with, you see action plans in the website, but then there's no operational plan that accompanies them. Nobody is checking anybody. Nobody is asking anybody for accountability. And
hopefully, with the Borno situation, those questions, very strong questions, need to
the
begin
bitter
to be
lesson, and the people who are the most vulnerable are the ones who are suffering it. Unfortunately.
Suwaiba Mohammed Dankabo, Deputy Country Director, Director of Programs, ActionAid. Thank you so much for joining us.